We'll start right from the top. This skull is not just one big bone. We learned that. What are the bones of the skull? Well, let's start off with the one that's going to fall off if I don't do that. What's that?
Mandible.
Mandible. Make sure you know the mandible. Other bones that it's on the skull. We got the frontal. Right or left zygomatic. That's the cheekbone. Right or left maxilla. I'm doing the right, by the way. Right or left maxilla. This is the right maxilla. That's the one the teeth go into. Right or left parietal. This is the right parietal. And from inferiorly, the palate. The posterior third of the palate is right or left palatine bone. Then we got a whole bunch of bone markings to do. For the temporal bone, the ear hole, external auditory meatus. Behind your ear, that bump that's there, mastoid process. The pointy thing that sticks down next to that is styloid process. The process of the temporal bone that's going towards the zygomatic. That is the zygomatic process of the temporal bone. So that's zygomatic process. Notice it's posterior to the dark line that I drew. Anterior to that dark line would be the temporal process. That is the temporal process. Next, we can look inside the skull and do the markings that are in there. That is the crista galli. Crista galli. On either side of the crista galli is the plate with all the tiny little openings or holes in them. That plate with all the tiny holes is the cribriform plate. Also inside there, inside in the sphenoid bone, you got that little fossa there. That's sella turcica. Sometimes I point to that and ask you what sits inside that. That is the pituitary gland. And from this view, I also could point to that opening and ask you what is that? That is foramen magnum. That pretty much covers anything that I would do from this view. Then we got the view where it's like this again, foramen magnum. On either side of foramen magnum, from inferiorly, you could see the condyles. Those are the occipital condyles. Occipital condyles. And then all of those markings that I just did on the temporal bone are fair game once again. You got mastoid process, styloid process, external auditory meatus, that's the ear hole, zygomatic process, and now from this angle we can see something else. Don't forget that guy right there. Mandibular fossa. That's where the mandible sat. That's why that's mandibular fossa. 6 questions.